Okay, good evening, everybody. It is 8:30. Going to get the meeting started here. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Ryan, and I am an alcoholic. A couple quick announcements here, and we'll get the meeting started. This group, we record all the speakers here, so if you enjoy the message you hear here, you want to get a copy of like a speaker that you hear here, you think somebody could benefit from a message that you get here, you want to pass it along to somebody, you can get a copy of any of the speakers that you hear here. You can get, if you wanted to get a copy of the speaker from tonight, they will be available at next week's meeting. They're also available at the sister group for this group, which is a big book study up the road here at 7:30 Thursday nights at Salem UCC Church right up the road there. This group has a Facebook page. It has a website. They're both great resources to stay informed with like the happenings for this group. Other groups post their events, speakers, celebrations they might be having going on. If you have anything like that going on, we do encourage you, post it to the Facebook page. You can bring your flyers in, put them on the table in the back there. We always have stuff going on. In this room on Monday nights at 7:30, there is an Al-Anon meeting. So if you think anybody could benefit from that, there's a lot of people we can help. We can pass along the message, not just alcoholics, so pass along the message if you think somebody could benefit from that. Daryl is going to come up here. He's going to chair the meeting, and thank you guys.
Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Daryl, and I'm an alcoholic. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, at 8:30 p.m. here in Doylestown, PA. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here in this room. The purpose of the group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that they may benefit, so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, please simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? Right there. Hey, Shane, welcome. Right there. Hey, Kyle, welcome. Hey, Frank, welcome. Hey, Greg, welcome. Robin, welcome. Hey, Kyle, welcome. Hey, Brett, welcome. Ed, welcome. Hey, Sam, welcome. Hey, Dan, welcome. Is there anyone else? Right there? Hi, Dean, welcome. Is that it? Welcome, everybody. The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. There you go, everybody. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Right there. Hi, Ken.
I have a flyer here for the 5th annual Dr. Bob's Speaker Dinner. It's on Friday, February 21st, at 7 to 10. Speaker will be Gail Bell. There is a cost. Tickets are $40, and this is an annual fundraiser for Dr. Bob's phone and accuracy. So we got people over there. If you need any more information, you can talk to me after.
All right, thank you. Is there any more announcements?
Hi, my name is Brad, alcoholic.
Hi, Brad.
We have a meeting at our bar the last Saturday of every month. I put some flyers back there. I've got some really great speakers from California and everybody else state for the next few months. So if you have any questions, there's some flyers in the back.
Thank you, Brad. Anybody else? All right. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for purchase of big books and CDs to help those who can't afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked big books and CD donations in the back right there. For the big books, whoever can afford a big book, please, if anybody could please put a donation in, $1, $2, $20. It'll be great. If you would like a CD of any speaker, past or present, see me or Ron before or after the meeting. They are available free of charge. And I've asked Melinda to come up here and read the preamble.
Hi, I'm Melinda. I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, and does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I'm going to bring up Melanie for the 12 steps.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Melanie, and I'm an alcoholic. These are the 12 steps of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And 10, continued to take personal inventory and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
All right, and I was just informed that I forgot, we do have hoodies and T-shirts back there. Everybody see Hayden back there? Give him a round of applause. And at this time, the 7th tradition, every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the basket. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover rent, big books, CDs, events, and workshops, etc. There's absolutely no smoking on church property. If you feel the urge to smoke a cigarette, please smoke it across the street off church grounds. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now, I would like to introduce the speaker, a good friend of the Conscious Contact Group. His name is Josh A. from the Outlaw Safe Cracker Group in Oklahoma.
Thank you. My name is Josh Atchley. I'm alcoholic. My sobriety date is July 24th, 2009. And my home group is the Outlaw Safe Cracker Group in Claremore, Oklahoma. Ron, thanks for getting me on the schedule. Shannon, thanks for flying me up here. It didn't go on an announcement. Shannon's home group's celebrating their 2-year anniversary tomorrow night, which is really how I got to come here to start with. But real grateful to be here. My friend Shane came up, and I got a lot of other friends I haven't got to meet yet, but I'm really grateful to be here. My drinking's probably not a whole lot different than anybody else. I mean, I'm an alcoholic. I grew up in an alcoholic home. I don't think that's what makes me alcoholic at all, but it's the truth. I knew as a kid that the kids don't drink the beer. We drink the juice or the water or whatever, and I didn't really even know how dysfunctional my home was till I spent the night with some other people and saw how they lived. You know what I mean? I'd go stay the night with somebody, and they're all getting ready to pray for their meal, and I got half a mouthful of food, that kind of stuff. And my parents done the best they can. I don't have a bad word to say about them. I came here very angry at everybody, and I can tell you today my parents done the best job they could. Growing up in an alcoholic home, there's a lot of dysfunction, a lot of craziness, a lot of stuff. My mom and my stepdad came to Alcoholics Anonymous and got sober when I was 12 years old. And they still haven't drank since then. I mean, my mom just took a 26-year chip in October. And so, but I had already seen enough about drinking at that point to know what I was going to do when I got a chance to do it. I never really equated alcohol with danger. As much as I saw my parents fight and scream and argue and the dysfunction and stuff, I can remember everybody being drunk and laughing and having fun and listening to music, and that was something I wanted to do when I got a chance to do it, and I did. I don't remember my first drink. I remember getting little drinks as a little child, as I got to be a teenager, I got the opportunity to drink more. I had a friend I went to school with that his parents would let us drink on the weekends, just throw us some beers and stuff, so I spent the night with that kid as often as I could. And they let us smoke too, which was like a bonus at 13, 14 years old. And, I can remember drinking 6, 8 beers one night, and I didn't get sick, and I didn't get hurt, and I didn't go to jail, and I had a good time. I can remember being maybe 15, 16 years old, getting drunk on the riverbank with a girl and staying up all night, smoking and drinking, and I can remember having the thought of, I want to do this for the rest of my life. As I got a little older as a teenager, alcohol really did some stuff for me on the inside. I wasn't nervous, I wasn't shy, I could talk to girls, I could hit people. I wasn't real good at either one of those things, but when I drank, I didn't really care what you thought. I didn't care if you thought I was cool or any of that stuff. I just didn't care. Alcohol took me to a different world in my head. Where everything was, it seemed like, it's like the doctor's opinion talks about that sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks. And I got that. I got that every time. As I got older in high school, drinking became a bigger problem for me. I had a girlfriend that, I was 18 and she was 16, and she was great. Man, she was a great girl. We got through a lot of first-time stuff together as teenage people. I won't go into detail, but, we had a lot of fun. And, when I played sports in school, I played basketball, and the night of my last basketball game, I went on the back roads with the guys and got drunk. I pretty much drank till I came to AA. My ego just couldn't take being this kind of, not that I was any good, but, local paper, being in the headlines or a picture or something. It was like I went from this kind of local basketball guy to a has-been, like overnight, And, I just stayed drunk. I just couldn't hardly deal with it. I couldn't hardly live with it. It didn't take long for alcohol to be a real problem in my life in this relationship. I was getting ultimatums, it's me or the booze, I don't like you when you drink, you're mean when you drink, you change, you become a different person when you drink. And after I graduated high school, that girl I'd been with for about a year and a half, I broke up with her. It was really like the first thing that I really cared about that alcohol cut out of my life. It really hurt me to do what I did to her. She pretty much gave me all she had, and I threw her away like a piece of trash because she didn't fit my lifestyle anymore. I would go through many more failed relationships as time went on. I'd have these things happen, that I think, when this happens, I'm going to straighten up, I'm going to be a good guy. I got a girl pregnant when I was 21. Got a DUI on my 21st birthday and got the breathalyzer. You know what those are here? There's probably some out there tonight. You know who you are. I won't point you out, but I got the breathalyzer, and I would drive to the bar knowing I can't drive home. I can't start my car again, and it would motivate me to find a date for the night, I guess you could say. And one of those dates took me home, and I got her pregnant. And, the whole time she's pregnant, in my mind, I'm thinking, when this kid comes, I'm going to straighten out. I'm going to be a good man. I'm going to be a better parent than my parents were. I'm not going to make them grow up in that chaos I grew up in. I'm going to be a good guy. And I can tell you, my kids lived a way harder life than I ever did growing up. I was way worse than my parents. We're not even in the same ballpark. That baby came, and they cut the umbilical cord and gave him to me, and I wasn't sober. And I carried him back, and after I kind of got him settled in, I went out to the parking lot for a while. That's kind of the way my life was. I'd like to say I was a good dad, but the truth is, I'd give this baby to anybody to take it. I'd sit in a bar and tell you how much I love my family. My family's the most important thing in my life. I love being a father. I love being a husband. I just love my life. And my actions don't support that statement at all. I'm in there drinking up the electric bill as I'm talking about it, right? Of course, things got worse over time. It's always crazy to me, like, the doctor's opinion where it says, that their alcoholic life seemed to be the only normal one. It's crazy to me in reflection, looking back, of how that lifestyle just became a reality for me. It's like I know right from wrong. I start off as a kid. I know right from wrong. You don't drink and drive. You don't hit people. You don't cheat on people. You don't steal. And as this stuff's ratcheting down on me, I just get to a place where people are saying, "What are you doing?" And it's like, this is what I do, man. This is my life. I come to AA, I think everybody's kids are on the angel tree. I think everybody's on food stamps. I think everybody's down to the city trying to get a light bill paid every year and a gas bill paid every year. And, everybody's down at the church trying to get canned goods and school supplies and school clothes for the kids. That's life for me. Everybody's got a wife and a couple of girlfriends, and everybody goes to jail, and everybody loses their license. And it's amazing to me the place I got to that I was okay with. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but I just didn't see anything wrong. Here we are microwaving water in the microwave to fill up the tub to get an inch of water to bathe the kids because the gas is shut off. To me that's normal. I think I'm a good dad. Me and Shannon was talking earlier today. As you go through step work, I don't think you can really see the truth till it's in your own handwriting. And I don't think you can hear the truth till you speak it. But I think just as important to find the truth is to see the lies. The stuff I was telling myself all that time, that this is okay, this is acceptable, this will be all right. Coming into AA, about 6 months before I got sober, I was doing a job down in southern Oklahoma. I'm from northeast Oklahoma. And there's another gap in license for me, and we were working on the road, and I used to always say we got the day off. We didn't have the day off. We showed up drunk, and the boss said, "You guys need to leave." And so we went to Texas to get some stronger beer. It seemed like a good idea. We had the day off. And I'm making these guys drive everywhere because I don't have a license again at this time of my life. And we get on the back roads, and they said, "Well, you're going to drive on the back roads." We drove all the way to Texas and back, and I said, "All right." And we hit a few bars on the way home too, and I'm feeling pretty good. And I'm cutting this 1-ton dually truck, flatbed truck with a diesel tank on the back. I'm cutting around the corners, and I got to cutting around the corner, and I couldn't get it back on the road, and I flipped that work truck end over end, drunk off the clock. And we had our trash in the back, which was just about, I think, 3 or 4 trash bags full of natural light cans. I don't know if y'all got some natural light. Some natty. It was just natural light cans and pork rind wrappers, the bags. And man, when we flipped that truck, it was like confetti up there. I mean, just beer cans everywhere, And, we land on the top, and I drag those guys out of the truck, and we're grabbing armloads of beer cans, throwing them off in this cow pasture, and trying to come up with a story. And I lost that job. I'd been there 5.5 years. And I came back to where I was living, was in Wagner, Oklahoma. I came back there, I had some buddies come. It was about 4 hours from where I lived, and I drank on the way home. They had some beer, and we drank on the way home. And I get home, and I think, I got to get a job now, right? And I think, well, I got a couple of out-of-town checks coming in. We'll get a job in a few weeks. And, of course, the money ran out. And, I thought I'd probably have to pass the UA if I want to get a job. And then I came to terms that wasn't going to happen. And so I had this idea, and I don't really know where it came from. I don't have any idea where it came from, but I had this idea that I was going to go to the city library and Google how to make homemade wine. Now, I don't know where that came from, but I came back with 4 or 5 different recipes, and we're on food stamps, so I can get some stuff to make it. Most of those recipes are horrible. It's like a fart, man. You just let that stuff rot for 3 or 4 weeks, and then you skim it off the top, and you couldn't hardly get it to your face. It stunk so bad to really even see if it was any good. But eventually I found the one recipe that wasn't horrible. I mean, it probably was horrible, but you could tolerate it, right? It wouldn't freeze, I guess, is in our terms, right? I made some wine that wouldn't freeze, and you could drink it in like 26 days. And when I found that recipe, I could make a gallon of wine for $5 in food stamps, and I could sell it 20 a gallon cash. And that's what I'm doing. I'm going around the bars, giving them a gallon milk jug full of wine, and after hours they pass it around. I start taking orders, and that's what I'm doing. It wasn't so bad as far as spending the food stamps till I found that one recipe. And then I've got about a 10, 15 gallon rotation every week going up in the attic, where I got 10 or 15 gallons coming down every week. And I thought, if you were as smart as I was, you'd probably figure that out too, I'd tell you how to make it, but there's some new guys in here who'd probably go try it. I guess the real secret is the more sugar you put in it, the higher the alcohol, But I mean, it was horrible though. It was bad stuff. Man, it was like poison. People were like trying to kill themselves. I guess it probably was poison. But, eventually I had to quit making the wine, man. There was bad stuff happening to the people. And, coming into AA, my adopted dad, I got 3 dads, so you might hear me talk about them, but my adopted dad was a drinker, and we drank. We didn't get along until I was old enough to drink with him. And one night I got a DUI coming back from his house. He was with me. I got a DUI and a bunch of other charges, and he got a public intox, and we went to county for the night. And I remember thinking, this is going to be a good story, right? I'm Stellies with Dad in county, But then I woke up, and the bondsman was standing over me, and he let me out of jail. I didn't have any money, but he let me out of jail. And I owed him for the DUI bond. And me and my dad made this walk back to my house, a mile or so back to the house. And my wife's pissed. She thinks I've been out running around on her, and normally I probably would have been, but that night I was in jail. And I remember her just hammering me, look what you've done to our life. Look what you've done to our kids' life. At those times, I'm extremely ashamed, embarrassed. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do all this, right? I can remember that day being on my knees crying and begging, please don't take the kids. Please don't leave. I'm sorry. I'm done. And I really meant it that day. I believe that. I really meant I was done. I'm done. There's no question. I'm done. I'm sorry and I'm done. I got that DUI on Monday night. I got out Tuesday and I went back to jail on Thursday. Messed up. And the same bondsman that woke me up Tuesday woke me up Friday morning, and he's pissed. He's got to let me out on this bond here just to pay off the first bond. And he said, I think you got a problem. And I said, I think I do too. And I made the same walk back home, and I ended up calling my mom. And I remember telling her, I don't know what the hell's wrong with me. I can't turn it off. I'm so tired of hurting everybody, and I don't know how not to. My mom been waiting on that call for 10, 15 years. And some stuff happened. A guy showed up at my house that night, a guy named Ron S. Ron was an angel. And Ron took me to a meeting that night. We went in, the meeting started, and Ron left. He left me in there with these people. I don't know Ron 5 minutes, and now I'm in here with all these people. And I remember, they started passing the basket. I don't know what they were doing. It got to me, I thought they took up a collection because I looked so bad. I had about a 2-year beard, big old earrings, and I was beat up a little bit. And it got to me, and I said, what's this? And they said, well, if you got $1, you can put $1 in that. And I said, what kind of place is this begging for dollars, And I remember I wasn't impressed. All I heard around the table was brag and wine, brag and wine, brag and wine. I remember thinking I wouldn't hang out with none of these people. And Ron didn't leave. He was just out smoking cigarettes the whole meeting. And so after the meeting, I went home. And I I didn't know what I was going to do, and another angel called me on the phone that night, a guy named Nate C. Nate called me and he says, I know your mom, I think she's a cool lady, and she asked me if I'd give you a call. Now, I didn't know this man. And what he was fixing to do is absolutely in our book, right? It's on, page 18, alcoholic properly armed facts about himself, chapter 7, interviewing process, get the guy comfortable and let him tell you stories about, he did this for me. And he shared that he was a drunk and he'd done drugs and he'd been to prison for stabbing some dude. Looked like somebody I'd probably run with just on paper, I guess. And, but he shared enough about himself with me that it got me to lower my wall down to share a little with him. I wasn't one to talk about my business to people, especially people I don't know. I was very guarded, private man. I was doing a lot of stuff that wasn't none of your business, you know what I mean? And he said, tell me about your drinking. And I said, all right, I don't remember what I said, but I told him I drank. I drank a lot. And, he said some stuff that was profound to me that night. He said, you ever try to quit? And I said, hell, I quit 3 times last week. I just quit 2 days ago, man. I ain't no good at it. And he said, no, you sound like a really good quitter. I said, man, did you not hear what I said? He said, your problem isn't quitting. Your problem is you can't quit starting again. And that was the most profound thing I'd ever heard in my life. Like, I'd never heard anybody say that. I'd never even had the thought. But that was 100% accurate. Your problem isn't quitting. Your problem is you can't quit starting again. And he said, what do you do when you quit? And I said, I just promise everybody I'm done for forever. And he said, how long's forever last? And I said, usually not till dark. And he said, well, you're in luck. Because in Alcoholics Anonymous, we're not trying to quit drinking for forever. I'm like, that's good. Maybe I can do AA, He said, we're not trying to quit for a whole year, a month, or even a week straight. And in my mind, I know better than this. I realize I'm in Pennsylvania tonight, but where I grew up, there's an Amish community. And I thought they must be like the Amish and drink half day on Sunday after church or something, And it was Friday, so I thought, and I know better than that, but that was the thought I had. But he said, let's just try to get to midnight. It was like 10:30. I said, yeah, I could probably get to midnight. And he said, if you feel like drinking tomorrow, give me a call, but don't call me if you're drunk. I don't want to call you. I don't want you to call if you're messed up. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't know how to fall asleep when I come to AA. So I just stay up till 6 a.m. and call him. And he said, what do you need? I woke him up Saturday morning. He said, you told me to call if I wanted to drink. He said, do you want to drink? I said, hell yeah, I want to drink. And he started giving me some directions. I hadn't even met the man yet. One of the first things he told me, I sent him a text message. I said, boy, I really want to drink today. What do you think, man? I mean, I'm having a rough day. And he texted me back, pray. And I can remember looking at my phone just profound, like, I thought you guys really had some answers here. That's what you're coming at me with, pray, right? And I said, what if that don't work? He said, pray some more. And I thought, Jesus, guy. And I said, what if that don't work? He said, take your butt to a meeting. And I think one of the reasons I know I was ready when I came to AA is I did what he asked. I felt goofy. It felt stupid. It felt like I was talking to the wall. But I did. And I didn't drink that day and I didn't go to jail. Coming in, my wife was a pain pill addict when I came to AA. When I got sober, it screwed a lot of people's stuff up for a while. We're no longer having that stuff in our home. And my wife came to me and begged me not to get sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. Please don't do this to me. How could you do this to me? Just slow down. Please don't do this. And I realized a lot of us come here for our families begging us to get sober. That's not my story. And I didn't have much faith in AA. I said, you know what? I don't think this crap's going to work for me. But they keep telling me, just get to midnight. And so my mantra became early on, I might drink tomorrow, but I'm not going to drink today. Right? Just trying to get to midnight. I met that guy that called me on my sobriety date. I met him that Monday. That Sunday, I got my first big book. And I have to say, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is the greatest thing I've ever received in my entire life. It gave me everything I have today. A lot of us thank God for AA. I thank AA for God because that's where I found God. That gives me goosebumps. It's given me everything. It gave my wife. It gave me custody of my kids. It gave me my health, which I'll tell you a little bit about tonight. My first winter, my wife ended up leaving me on day 50. Took the kids, moved to the other end of the state. It was tough, very difficult. Wasn't the first time my wife left. It was the first time I don't sit at the kitchen table and drink whiskey till she comes home, though. That's scary for a guy like me. All our utilities were shut off. This was in September of 2009. That winter, we had really bad storms in Oklahoma. A lot of snow, a lot of ice, a lot of cold air. And, it's not me. Mine's in the car. But anyway, sorry. So the first winter, it snowed. My neighbor was nice enough to let me use their water hose to take a shower and stuff and to fill the toilet up so I could flush it, which is a big deal for some of you squatters out there. You know what I'm talking about. And it wasn't, the water hose showers weren't too bad in September, and they really weren't too bad in October. But November, December, January, February, I'd come home and I'd kick through the snow and hook that hose with my foot and take it around to my neighbor's outside a hydrant and hook it up, and I'd run at my window. It had a little nozzle on it, a little gun on it. And I can remember being there. It's 20 degrees in my house. I'm naked. I'm in the bathroom. I got a flashlight for a light, and I'm thanking God for this water. Father, thank you for this water I get to bathe with. And I hit myself with that water, and I'm shaking, man. It's so cold, and I'm soaping up and rinsing off. And, there isn't much you can do at that point. You're just freezing. You're just shaking, right? You're shaking, and, man, I'd towel off, and I'd put on my shorts and sweats and jeans and everything I could on, T-shirts and sweatshirts and hoodies and coat and my stocking cap and wrapping the scarf around, and I lay on bed and throw all my covers on top of me, and I throw the dog up on top of that, and I just hunker down. Because, I got to get right. You know what I mean? I got to go turn my neighbor's water off so it don't bust their pipes, and I got to unhook that hose and walk it out and drain it and put it up on the fence so I can use it tomorrow, and I'm happier than I've ever been in my life. I was probably 5 months sober at that time. And probably the worst thing in the world that could have possibly happened to me, do you know what it was? I got a girlfriend. I didn't question her sanity or mental health or nothing. She wanted to come stay at my house. I thought it must be love, if she wants to come spend the weekend over there. She didn't mind pissing in the bucket, so I guess that was all right. And, something shifted in me at that point. I don't want to go to AA that much anymore. I cut back on the meetings quite a bit. I want to do stuff with her. The sponsor's a real drag when you ain't doing what you're supposed to do. He's kind of an a-hole, right? I mean, he's just saying, you're the problem, and that gets old when you ain't doing nothing. I quit praying. I hope God ain't watching what I'm doing over here. I hope he's taking a break. And, the inevitable happens. I'm living off a meeting or two a week. I'm not surrendered. I'm not recovered. I'm not nothing. I'm crazy. I started taking credit for my sobriety. Hell, I'm doing pretty good. I got 6 months. It ain't my wife and kids, it's somebody else's wife and kids, but it looks the part, right? And the inevitable happened to me at about almost 10 months sober. I get into it with the girl mad, and I grab her up and scare her, and she takes her kids and leaves, and I take off to the store. And I call that sponsor up, and I said, screw you, screw A, screw God, I'm done. I'm getting some beer tonight. And he starts throwing my sex conduct at me out of my fist up. I'm like, how dare you? That's supposed to be secret. And anyway, I turn my phone off, and I walk about a mile and a half. It's midnight. I walk in there for a $100 bill. I get a 30-pack of Natty and 2 packs of Pall Mall, like nothing changed, right? And I'm walking home carrying this 30-pack back home, and my head's doing it to me the whole way. Screw that guy. He don't know your childhood. He didn't have your dad. He don't know what you've been through. He wasn't married to her. And I'm like having this, screw him. This back and forth in my head. And I get home and I throw 2 beers in the freezer and throw that 30-pack in the fridge and light a cigarette at my table, and I just start crying because I don't want to drink. I know what happens when I drink. It is horrible what I do to people when I drink. I'm an abusive, angry, mean person. I say horrible things. I do horrible things. And by the grace of God, I don't drink that night. Take the beer out of the freezer, put it in the fridge, and I go to sleep, actually. That was Mother's Day, 2010. And I wake up the next day, I call into work, and the beer's in the fridge, and I know it's in the fridge, and And I started thinking about those guys in AA, those old timers. Once you're drunk, you're always a drunk. It's progressive. It's going to get worse, never better. And I remember having the thought, I don't want to die with beer on my breath. And I sat down at the table and I wrote a big old long letter out to my mom, apologizing for all the stuff I'd done and how bad I turned out. And the girl from high school was in the letter. Please tell Sarah I'm sorry for hurting her. And I made sure my dog had plenty of food and water. And I went out in my shed. And I tied a rope off over on the side, and I brung it around to the middle of the rafter and wrapped it up a few times and made a little loop, pulled the rope back through it, made a little noose, and I got up on a chair and wrapped it up again, make sure the length was about right. And I kicked the chair and hung myself 10 months sober in AA. You know, it really made our book true for me. Our book doesn't say, well, alcohol's a problem, you just quit drinking, you'll be okay. It doesn't say, the root of my problems, I drink too much is the answer not to drink. It doesn't say the number one offender is alcohol, and you just quit putting it in your system, you'll be okay. It doesn't say that at all. You know, in our book it says selfish, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles, right? Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows, like I did the girl. They retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that sometime in the past we made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So our troubles we think are of our own making, they rise out of ourselves. The alcoholic's an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. It made that true for me. Up to that point I thought if I just don't put alcohol or any of this other stuff in my system, I'll be a good guy, I'll be alright. And the truth is, I ain't never been all right sober, ever. You know, I'm an answer drinker. My problem's never been drinking. My problem's always been sobriety. Sobriety is like a panic attack for me, right? It's like I can't catch my breath. I'm not okay. I'm not at peace. The only answer I've ever found for any of that is this process in our book. You know, my first sponsor gave me exactly what he was given. It was kind of a version of this process. And I don't fault that man. I'm not here to talk bad about him. The man saved my life. Everything good in my life today I attribute to the 2 hours that man gave on my sobriety day to a complete stranger. And what happened, you know, the girl came out back and poured the beer out and threw the rope away. My mom starts coming to Wagner every Friday night, taking me to a big book study. And I didn't get better. And I want you to know, when I came into AA, before I got in AA and after I came into AA, I was not a good man. I was abusive. I was mean. I hurt people before and after coming here. I just didn't come to AA, quit drinking, and become a good person overnight. That is not what happened to me. And I put this family through all kinds of crap over the next 6-8 months. Eventually the woman finally got away, thank God, took her kids and left, and you know, I was kind of at a crossroads again. My first sponsor, he marked almost all my amends off my 8-step list. There was a lot of people of different races he didn't like, so he took all them people off my amends list. You know, anybody from my past, especially girlfriends, took off the list. He whittled it down basically to my family, my parents, my brothers and sisters, maybe a couple of people, and that was it. And, that didn't work too good for me, obviously. But anyway, I'm not here to bash that. You know, about 2 years sober, about a year after hanging myself, I started thinking about the girl from high school. I was told you could never go make that amends. She might be married with kids somewhere. You show up, you're going to screw it up, which I believe. But I knew I owed her an amends. And I found a mutual friend through the internet, and eventually that lady reached out to the girl from high school and said, "You ever think about Josh Atchley from high school?" And she said something that wasn't very nice that she wouldn't want me to tell you. I want to, but I can't. And the lady said he's sober in AA. He's almost 2 years sober, and we exchanged numbers and we started texting, and then we talk on the phone. Hadn't talked to her in 11 years. And the next day she comes to Wagner and takes me to Claremore, where she lives. And she takes me to a Pentecostal church revival. I don't know if you've ever been to one of those. They're intense. Talk about a spiritual experience. There's some stuff going on in that place. But on the way, I kind of make this surface amends. I was wrong, and he didn't deserve that. And just something light. And we go to this place, and it's a little bitty church, but it's packed. And up front, they got this big trash can up front. And there's people lined up down both sides of the church, and they got like their rap music and their R-rated movies and their skull and stuff. And I'm watching them. They go up there and hold it up and throw it in the trash can, and everybody erupts like they scored a touchdown, right? And I like people cheering for me. So I got in the line. I made sure she saw me going up there. Watch me. I'm going. I get up there and I get my cigarettes and lighter and hold it up, and they all cheered, and I threw it in the trash can. I hit the game-winning home run, and I went back, and that service lasted for hours, man. It was long. At the end of this, after it was over, a lady came up and said, we got some punch and cookies off the side here if you want to come get some refreshments. And I said, I think I might have felt something. I'd just like some time alone if you don't mind. And everybody left. And I went back up there and got my cigarette. And I went outside and called my sponsor and lit a smoke. Said, man, you ever been to a Pentecostal revival? They're intense, man. And the girl didn't call me the next day either, but she gave me a ride home. And I always think, my thought is probably because I made her stop so I could smoke like 3 times on the way home, And she didn't seem too impressed with my demonstration of surrender. Next day she didn't call. The day after that she called me, and the next day she came and got me, and we went to this park, and we went to dinner, hamburgers, and we went out to the lake, and I got to make an amends to this woman 11 years after hurting her. And I want you to know I went through my life thinking I ain't hurt nobody but myself, right? Get off my back. This woman wasn't happily married with kids somewhere. She was alone. She had been alone for over 10 years, afraid to meet a man like me. And here I am screwing and fighting my way around the world here, right? After 11 years, that woman only had one question for me. After all that stuff, one question, she said, what did I do wrong? I gave you everything you wanted. Even if I didn't want to do something with you, I did it anyway. And you threw me away like trash. What did I do wrong? This woman had blamed herself for 11 years of me throwing her away. And I'm bawling my eyes out. I'm on my knees. And I said all I could say. You didn't do anything wrong. You were great. You fell in love with an alcoholic. I was wrong for all the things I did to you, and I want you to know I was wrong, and I want to make that right if I can. And I didn't have any expectation with this. It wasn't to be friends. It wasn't to date again. None of that. We started kind of talking for a little bit after that. 4th of July in 2011 is kind of when she met my son that day, my youngest son, and that's kind of the day we kind of consider we started dating. This 4th of July will be 9 years we've been together, and May will be 6 years we've been married. This isn't some rekindling the high school romance or some 9-step amends in AA trying to do something, make it right. My wife's my best friend today. She's great. She's a great lady. And I get to be the man she deserved from the beginning today. In 2012, I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, September of 2012, and I didn't know what that was, and it scared me, and some of you probably know what it is, but I'm not going to explain it all. It's not good. Really debilitating thing. And by 2014, I had lost my job. I got laid off. I was really struggling. By December of 14, I was using 2 canes to walk. I couldn't hardly swallow water. I was having trouble keeping up with conversations. I was having trouble getting words to come out right. I had a lot of other stuff that I won't go into. And my neurologist said, you need to get your house in order. And he said, most of the time we take everybody off to all the MS meds at this point, and if you want some Xanax or pain pills to be more comfortable, we could do that. I think I was 33 years old. I made out a will. Picked the songs for my funeral. Wrote out he was getting my first edition big book. Got all of it. I started keeping a journal for my boys so so they knew why I liked the music I liked and why I liked basketball. And obviously, as you see me today, I didn't die, and you wouldn't even know I have MS unless I told you. And I want to share with you what happened to me. In October of 14, or September of 2014, a man from Cedar Rapids, Iowa came to Tulsa to do a workshop. And I didn't want to go, but my sponsor told me I needed to because it was his home group. They fly this guy in from Iowa, 7 people, including him. The speaker was in attendance at this thing. And I'd never heard anybody talk about Alcoholics Anonymous the way this man talked about AA. The process, the step work, vested interest, what's going to be here for the people not yet born. I was blown away. I told my sponsor, I said, take me through the book the way Mike does it. And he said, if you want a new experience, take a new guy through it. And I said, okay. And I got Mike's number. And what do you do? And I get a guy so far, and he get drunk, and I get another guy a little further, and I call Mike back up. What do you do next? And I finally, in December of 14, as I'm going through all these health problems, I got a guy to inventory. January of 15, Mike asked me, I was calling him to what the next assignment was to give this other guy, and he said, would you like me to take you through the book over the phone? I never heard nobody doing that before. And I said, yes. Okay. And this man starts reading the book to me over the phone. We get to about 2 weeks into it, and I get a phone call, and my first wife, my son's mom, had overdosed and died. My son was 11 years old, and I remember sitting my boy down on the couch, holding his little hands and telling him his mom was gone, and watching it hit him in the head like a hammer. And I had an appointment with Mike the next day, and Mike called, and I said, man, I can't go today, Mike. I'm all screwed in the head, dude. I'm not okay. This is horrible. And he said, I understand, and I'll be praying for your family. What are you doing tomorrow? The next day we had a reading appointment. He read this book to me. And so I want to talk a little bit about that process that he took me through. You know, we started off talking. You know, I told him my history a little bit. We started on the title page. We talked about the 3 legacies. We talked about meeting etiquette. We talked about sponsorship. He took me to the preface and forwards. There's one of my favorite lines in our books in the second forward. I guess it would be the bottom of the second page and the top of the third page after Bill and Bob hook up, where it says, these seem to indicate that one alcoholic could affect another as no non-alcoholic could. And it says also seem to indicate that strenuous work one alcoholic with another was vital to permanent recovery. And he talked to me about strenuous work, time, commitment, sacrifice. It's going to be inconvenient. But more than telling me that, he showed me. He gave up his lunch breaks to read that book to me. He's speaking at conferences out of state, 8 o'clock Saturday night speaker. 6 o'clock he called and read to me for an hour. He's on vacation with his family, gets his kids laid down watching a movie. He calls and reads to me for an hour while he's on vacation. His demonstration of Alcoholics Anonymous to me changed my life. You know, we went through the doctor's opinion. He broke that stuff down. We went through Bill's story. We got into there as a solution. Changed my life, right? Changed my life. You know, there's a paragraph there on 19, I believe, where, you know, the none of us make a soul vocation paragraph. None of us make a soul vocation as work, nor do we think its effectiveness would be increased if we did. It says, we feel that elimination of drinking is but a beginning. A much more important demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs. And he said, it's easy to sit in AA and sound good. I can say the same. I can quote the book pretty good. It's easy for me to woo you with book knowledge. My wife does not care how well I know this book. My son, I can promise you, is not impressed. I'm in Pennsylvania speaking for you tonight. He doesn't care. They want a husband and they want a dad. And he said, if you're not living by these principles in your home and your marriage, you're not doing AA. I don't care how long you've been sober. AA is not a place we go, it's a way we live. And his example of that changed my life. You know, we got into agnostic, changed my life again. He gave me some assignments there. 47, it says, you know, something like prejudice, a bit, you know, we don't let any prejudice. We have honestly asked ourselves what spiritual terms mean to us. Gave me an assignment with that, write out spiritual terms, write what they mean to you. I called him up, got it done. And he said something that changed my path. He said, now we can both agree without a shadow of a doubt everything you've ever thought about God and Jesus and Bible and Spirit and religion and anything in that entire realm up to this very second is an old idea. And he said, what we're looking for here is a new experience with God that's going to change your life. He said, if anything you already knew was working for you, you wouldn't be talking to me. And he knocked down every wall I had up, because that was true. Gave me another assignment on the bedevilments on 52, which time reasons, I won't break all that down up here. We got into the third step, changed my life. You know, we read how it works after the ABCs. You know, it says, any life run on self-will can hardly be a success, right? He said, how's self-will done for you the last year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? What's that look like? Before AA, it was just straight down. And I got to AA, it was still kind of about straight down. Just a little bit not. And I had to say, self-will ain't done me too good. You know, we got onto that page on 62 that I quoted a minute ago. You know, at the end of where I stopped, it says, we muster this selfishness, we muster it kills us. It's important to point out, when I went to the shed, I had not drank. Booze didn't take me to the shed. Selfishness took me to the shed. Right? And so if that's going to kill me, how do I get rid of it? Our book says God makes that possible. And there often sees no way of entirely getting rid of self without His aid. Many of us have moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we cannot live up to them even when we'd like to. We couldn't reduce ourselves from centeredness much or our wish and trying on our own power. We had to have God's help. And it goes down in this, what he called the formal terms of surrender at the bottom of 62 there. You know, it says, first of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. And this man explained to me what playing God looked like. It gives us some examples right there, right? You know, he's the father, he's the director, he's the principal. Next page, he's the employer. And he said, if we're going to quit playing God, there's some stuff you're going to have to quit doing. He said, number one, the victim's got to go. Your problems of your own making. You're no longer judge, jury, and executioner of everybody that's wronged you. That never was your job, but it's not your job for sure now. He said, you got to quit being the noticer. That guy drank 3 cups of coffee and didn't put $1 in the basket. Boy, my neighbor really needs to mow their yard. You got to quit keeping score. It's the third time that guy came in and drank coffee and didn't put $1 in the basket. My neighbor ain't mowed their grass in 26 days, man. I got to quit doing this stuff. It's all rooted in ego. It's all rooted in self-centeredness. It's resentment, right? You know, I said I got to quit assigning roles to people. You're my wife. Why didn't you get my dry cleaning? You know, you're my son. How come you don't mow the grass a little better? You're my sponsee. We don't have a phone out meetings. You not get the memo on that? I got to quit playing God to people. And this was the first thing that started taking the weight up off my shoulders where I could be free today and I can walk. This was the beginning of that. You know, the inventory process changed my life. I want to make one more point in the third step on the bottom of 62. It says, next we decided. Next we decided. It's the only decision I see in the third step in our book. Next we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be the director, He's the Father, all that. That's the decision right there. How do I want to enter that surrender right there, right? You know, the inventory process changed my life. You know, it said our first assignment with this to people, institutions, and principles with whom we were angry. Mike said, that's real simple. If I've been mad at you once in my entire life, you go on the list. I said, that's what that means? He said, yeah, with whom we were angry is past tense. If I've been mad at you once in my whole life, you go on the list. I said, Jesus, man, that's going to be a long list. He said, it ought to be you're in your 30s. And he broke down, you know, people, institutions, and principles. I want to talk a little bit about principles because I was in AA a long time. I was 5 years sober when Mike started working with me. I never heard anybody talk about principles in the fourth step. He looked at it as values, belief systems, and what we think about ourselves, right? These belief systems I bring into AA on race and sex and politics and all this stuff, women. You know, I had a lot of twisted belief systems coming in here, really twisted. These things we think about ourselves, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, I ain't ever going to amount to nothing. Once a drunk, always a drunk. Once a thief, always a thief. All this stuff. I never heard anybody talking about those things. And this stuff started bringing stuff to the surface that had never been touched, never been dealt with. You know, the next sentence we asked ourselves why we were angry, the cause, second column. Something else Mike said, he said, if you're not going to do the prayer work with this stuff, don't even bother. If all you're going to do is write, don't even bother. And so every time I picked the pen up, I started inviting God into this process with me. And he brought back memory. When you write out, I'm resentful and I'm stupid, where does that start? What's the cause of something like that? Through prayer, I got a memory brought back to me being in first grade. And I won't go all into that either, but at the end of the day, the kids laughed at me. Teacher kind of made fun of me, and all the kids laughed at me. I spent from first grade to the rest of my life trying to prove to you I wasn't dumb. And what that turned out is a man is that wife I love so much, my best friend I'm married to. One day she's goofing on me and she goes, "You're just being stupid." And she walks in the kitchen and she touched that thing inside of me that had never been dealt with. And I cussed her. I won't say what I said. I can't even try because I cussed. But I was mean to her, and she wasn't trying to be mean to me. She was goofing on me. She was just joking with me. But that stuff had never been dealt with. The third column changed my life. Mike talked about it as the 7 areas of self, and he pointed them out to me. Right? Self-esteem, pride, ambition, security, personal sex, pocketbook, and he explained what that stuff was, right? Ambitions are what I want to do. Security is what I need you to do. Self-esteem is how I view me. Pride is how I think you view me. And he breaks this stuff down. And what I found is every time I'd ever been mad in my entire life, something was threatened in the third column. At least one of these areas. Some of them all were threatened in the third column. Changed my life. On the back of the inventory, or what he had me do, I did these inventories prior to this where we just added the 4th column over on the side, and it was like my part or my role. I never got free, by the way, doing that. Never. If I got a part and you got a part, I'm always going to be in bondage. I'm always going to be a victim, and I'm never going to be free. Right? If you got a part in this judgment in my head, I'm never going to be free. The only way to be free is to go back in time and say, hey, don't piss me off because I'm going to hate you for 20 years. It's really going to cause me a lot of trouble. I'm going to drink 10 of that. I come into AA, people are saying, well, just pray for them to get what you want. Praying for Shannon to have cocaine and hookers ain't going to make me hate him any less. Right? This process in the back of the inventory, what our book actually says, it asks us some stuff to put on paper, and we put it before us in black and white and looked at it. Where I've been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, frightened, and to blame concerning this judgment. Mike said, you have to take ownership over the judgment. It lives here. The pain is here. The fear is here. It's all here. It's my stuff. Right? It's my stuff. If you've been raped or molested or beat or some traumas happened to you, how do you take ownership over a judgment like that? Right? I work with a lot of people. I've been in a season of women for quite a few years here. It's not to say what you did to me was okay. It's not that. Trauma's trauma. You're absolutely a victim of whatever happened to you. But the judgment is mine. The resentment is mine. It lives here, right? And so as you take somebody by the hand and you walk them through this process, changed my life. I don't think you can really heal. You can do some surface stuff. Hell, you can even go make amends to somebody, and that might be a good deal. But if you don't get to the point of the tip of the sword in your heart and heal from that point outwardly, it's always going to be there, right? You're always going to be injured. Always going to be injured. I have a lot of stuff happen to me in my life. Sex stuff, childhood stuff. And I come into AA, I go through those steps with Mike, and I get to a couple of guys, and I'm cussing in this stuff. I never was them, by the way. AA ain't 3 words or less, it ain't them. A little tidbit for you. The fear inventory changed my life. Our book says we asked ourselves why we had these fears was because self-reliance failed us, right? First time in my life I see that every time I get scared, it's my own fault. I don't have faith and trust in God. I'm trying to do it on my own, right? And so I just want to make this point. If every time I get angry, something's threatened, and every time something's threatened, I have fear, and every time I have fear, it's my own fault, then my part or my role in this judgment is 100% all of it. It lives here. It's all me right here. If I can't take ownership, somebody walk me through that process, I'm never going to be free. Ever. The conduct stuff was so eye-opening for me. The way I treated people. The way I used people to feel better. The way I used you to make me feel good about myself. And the second that little act's over, I throw you away. I don't even want you to look at me in the face. Get away from me. I've been using people my whole life trying to feel better. My whole life I've been looking for stuff out here to fix what's wrong in here. My whole life. I don't have to do that no more. You know, the stuff I brought into 6 and 7, I knew exactly what I was bringing into 6 and 7. I had to make some lofty defect list or get the 12 and 12 out. I knew exactly. It was documented. It was in my inventory. Where had I been selfish, dishonest, self-seeking, frightened, to blame? I had an experience. You know, Mike said, have you thought you might want to hear your 5th step? And I said, well, I hadn't really thought about it. He said, what about coming to Iowa? And I said, probably not, Mike. I'm on disability. He said, what if I bought you a round-trip plane ticket, I put you up at my house 3 or 4 days and paid for your food? Could you come? This man didn't know me. He met me 6 months before for half a day. He did that. He paid for me a round-trip plane ticket to 5th step with him. I fly back to Iowa, a different man. I make an 8-step list. I'm coming up on 6 years sober at this time. Make another 8-step list. Made a list of all persons we had harmed. So who goes on there? All persons we had harmed. And became willing to make amends to them all. And Mike said, what do you think they mean by to them all? Man, I said, I don't know, man. What do you think? He said, what if to them all means to them all? Jesus, this guy's serious. I said, what about living amends? He said, I don't believe in it. He said, living a principled spiritual life, that stuff will take care of itself. He said, I've never seen a place where direct amends could be made. I had 94 names on that 8-step list, almost 6 years sober. And then he said, start with number 1. Don't be jumping around in there. Jesus, I don't want to start with my dad, man. I got some good stuff in the 30s I could start with, And I started on those amends. And by August of 2015, I had made about half those amends. And I put both the canes I was using up on the coat rack in my living room, and I haven't used a cane in over 4 years. I went back to that neurologist that told me I was going to die. I went back to him and he said, I can't scientifically explain what's happened to you. There's no way you should have gotten better. You can't repair the damage done in your brain and your spinal cord. I know exactly what happened to me. This happened to me. I was just under so much pressure and stress and fear of what's going to happen to me. It incapacitated me. The 3rd step, surrender, changed my life. The fear work changed my life. Taking ownership of my judgments and the resentment inventory changed my life. Really sharing the exact nature of my wrongs. My part compared to those 5 questions is kind of weak when you sit them side by side. I never shared the exact nature of my wrongs. I hit a little bit on the surface and call it good. I mentioned it to you. Yeah, I did that for drugs. I mentioned it to you. Not the exact nature of it, right? I don't want you to know. This stuff put it all on the table. My sponsor knows everything I've ever done. I want you to know I've made 90 out of those 94 amends. Every woman I've ever hurt and used that I know her name in my entire life, I found them all. I didn't hurt them. I didn't show up on their doorstep and make them explain it to their husband. I made contact with all of them. The kids in high school, the principal, the kids I played sports against, the bosses, the coworkers, the companies, the jails, the churches. I found them all. Except 4. Those guys have been tough. I'm still ready, though. I'm willing to do it. I just want to finish this thing up. The 10th step, which for years I thought was the inventory at night, right? I just thought, well, you just do a 10th step every once in a while when you have a bad day, which means never. There's a whole set of directions in our book. I was 3 or 4 years sober. I had no idea page 84 was even in here. I had no idea. It says, continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, not if, but when. We go to prayer. We ask God to remove it. We talk to some quickly. However it goes. Make amends if we harm somebody, and then we turn our attention to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. The stuff I uncovered in 6 and 7, Mike said once we're aware of those defects, we're responsible for them. I can't say I didn't know that was hurting people all that time, right? And he said you need to take it through 6 and 7 and make it a real piece of business between you and God and your 10, 11 step disciplines. My 11-step nightly review on 86, the 11-step nightly review has changed my life. I haven't missed a nightly review in over 3 years, probably maybe 4. Every night. It's such a big part of my life. Answering those questions. We're resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid. Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves? kind and loving toward all. Mike said bring that into your thought life, which is a whole new ball game, right? Were we kind and loving toward all? Well, I didn't do anything bad to anybody, but I won't say nothing. I was going to say something, but I won't. That stuff changed my life. You know, when the spirit gets clean, really, you know, when somebody walks you through this process and you're no longer blocked anymore, right? Because if I got something between me and you, I got something between me and God. Once that channel's clear, when something comes in my life that disturbs that, it's like a rock in the shoe. It demands attention. I write inventory as often as I need to write inventory. You know, the stuff in the 11th step, I want to read this and then I'm going to close right after probably. This idea of where I've got secondary progressive multiple sclerosis. And I went back to the neurologist and he said, there's no way you can explain this to me that makes sense. In our 11th step in our book, it says, as we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful and ask for the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves we are no longer running the show, humbly saying to ourselves many times each day, thy will be done. And this is what happened. We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We become much more efficient. We do not tire so easily. We're not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. And finally, the 12th step. Because of disability, because of multiple sclerosis, I got to dedicate my entire life to this work. And I'm not saying that to brag. This is my path. You got your own path. I don't know what it is. But because being on disability with MS, you know, I get to meet with 6, 8, 10 people in a day, an hour apiece, from all over the place, all over the country. Well, Mike took me through the book over the phone. He showed me it could be done that way, and not only be done, but be effective. You know, I get to dedicate my entire life to this work, and I wouldn't trade places with anybody. I appreciate your time.
All right, Josh, thank you for coming here to our group tonight to deliver that incredible message of hope and recovery. We're right up against it, so a couple of quick announcements. We'll get out of here. There's always a meeting after the meeting, so if you're out there, if you're new, if you're struggling, grab somebody after the meeting. We'll be hanging out.